polite society, there are topics that are usually not recommended to discuss with people who you're not close to. And politics is one of them, ladies. And I think the world of social media has actually changed this, where politics has become something that many now feel obliged to give their personal opinion on. So how do we go about this elegantly? Especially when we are not experts on the subjects and perhaps don't even want to share our opinion. My dear elegant ladies, I want to share with you my view today on how to handle these situations with elegance, but also how to set boundaries when needed. There is a lot of pressure on people to voice their opinions, whether that be at social events, on social media, or when you're just meeting an acquaintances. And you know, it has always shocked me whenever I have been in social situations, especially with people that I don't know very well, how some people can be so insensitive and put you in the spotlight by asking you, what's your opinion on XYZ? And this XYZ, it can be current events, it could be a political subject, or it can be, let's say, a political person. I want you to know that it is incredibly rude and inappropriate of someone to ask you such a thing, because nobody should ever be forced on expressing their opinion on a sensitive topic. That's number one. I want you to know, ladies, that you are not obliged to voice your political opinion if you don't feel comfortable in doing so. I mean, I think there's a reason to why politics have always been considered a taboo subject and why it's common to keep private, let's say, what political party you vote on, as an example. And the reason for that is very plain and simple, ladies. There will always be people who will agree with you, and there will always be people who don't, who will disagree with you. So for this reason, in a social setting, it can get quite uncomfortable if two people who share completely different opinions have to start a debate over their opinions. And the conversation can easily escalate, and it can turn awkward, or, you know, even nasty sometimes. And then it makes you wonder, what for? What's the point of this conversation? It's pretty useless because, you know, most likely nobody's going to change their mind. It instead carries a risk to turn into a hostile or emotional affair by having this conversation. So what's the point? Now, some claim that discussing politics with others is healthy because you get different opinions and it makes your own opinion more wholesome. And you know, even though I think there is a point to that, I do think it's important, though, to reflect who you discuss with and not to discuss with whoever. One, because you don't know what political agenda someone is trying to push on you. And two, you don't want to do it with someone you don't know very well. I think discussing politics with close friends is one thing, because you are familiar with each other and there might be no hard feelings if you disagree. But discussing politics with acquaintances and people outside of your close circle, I don't think that's a good idea. And I really do think that you can easily sabotage for yourself or shoot yourself in the foot that way. Now that takes me to something that has become incredibly common in our social media driven society, where both influencers but also regular people are being critiqued if they don't comment on politics that are currently in the air. And please, ladies, let me know in the comments below if you have been pressured by the people who follow you or your own social circle to post about something that everyone is currently posting about in the moment. Now, I can speak from the side of influencers because every time there's a current event in the world and it's all over the news, we get so many messages and even emails from people pushing us to speak on a subject. Now, for me, I don't see this behavior to be any different to the behavior that I just described to you that could happen in person. When someone puts you on the spotlight to voice your opinion, this happens also through social media. It is just as rude and is just as inappropriate to send people online messages and try to pressure them into speaking on a political subject. Because just like in person, there will be people who agree and there will also be people who disagree. And you should really know that as an influencer, part of our job is to receive hate on a daily basis, unfortunately. But you should know how much this hate actually increases. Whenever there is a worldwide event, people start sending you hate if you're silent, people send hate if you voice your opinion or if you address the matter, and they will hate you so much if they disagree with you. So it becomes the situation where it doesn't really matter what you do. You're gonna be in the wrong regardless. And from what I have heard from influencers after I asked around to research for today's video, sometimes staying silent is what's easier, because as soon as you mention a political event, the amount of hate one gets from those who don't share the opinion can become so toxic and frankly a bit too much to handle sometimes that many influencers might not have the mental or emotional strength to process all of that. I mean, after all, we are humans too. We're not some online robots. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but ladies, those who have not yet registered for my free workshop called How I Went from Broken Awkward to Live a $1 Million Life, I need to make you aware that there is still a little bit time left to register for this free 60-minute training where you will learn some of those awful mistakes I have made but learned from that led me to where I am today. You're also going to learn that one thing that was a complete game changer in my level up story. Plus, I'm gonna give you the formula to what makes women level up and achieve success. So visit levelupsecret.com and grab this opportunity, but make sure you register before it's too late. So for this reason, many influencers pick their battles. And what's funny is actually that even when you pick your battle, you still get critiqued because you're now not reporting on all events that happen in the world. And influencers then get slammed because they pick and choose. And just to give you some perspective, in 2021, there were around 27 conflicts in the world. Some were territorial disputes, some were civil war, some were political instabilities, and some were terrorist-related matters. Now, do you think that an influencer would be objectively educated on all these 27 conflicts and be able to raise awareness in a fair way for all of these conflicts that happened that year? Unless you have studied politics or you work in that environment somehow related to politics, then yes, maybe you are educated on all those matters and can speak on these subjects. But regular Joes like me, or maybe like you, don't have a deep understanding about everything that's happening in the world. And I think shaming people for what they speak on or don't speak on is as if you are shaming someone for what charity they're supporting. Would you critique someone for donating their money to cancer research over animal rescue, as an example? Or would you be like, why are you donating to an animal shelter? You should be giving those money to help the children. Now, I'm sure there are people who reason like this, but all I'm trying to say is that I don't think it's right, and it's definitely not considered polite, to impose on other people what they should feel and what causes they pick. And this has taught me a lot on how I set boundaries with the world. Because as an influencer, I decided that I don't want to discuss politics or report on current events on my social media platforms unless there is something I feel educated on and that I feel is right for me to talk about. Now, this boundary upsets a lot of people, but that's where my boundaries step in. Because I really do believe that each and everyone should have the right to choose what they speak on, if they decide to speak on something. What can easily happen if people speak just because of peer pressure is that there's going to be a lot of misinformation going to be spread. Because if we're not fully educated on a subject, it makes no sense to speak on it because you might not have all the facts. Now, the problem when you decide not to speak on something is that people start taking for granted that you are not in support of the cause. That if you're not there raising awareness, if you're not there campaigning for it or speaking on it, you are agreeing with the problem. And I think this part often gets misunderstood because I don't think silence necessarily means that someone is ignoring and doesn't care. I think what's most likely going on behind the scenes is that the person might be educating themselves on the matter behind closed doors, or they might be processing the situation, maybe trying to form an opinion if this is something new to them. Maybe they're doing things in private, such as doing donations. But assuming that people don't care if they're silent is quite a narrow way of thinking, in my opinion. And I also don't think that it's right to just assume things in such way when you probably don't have the whole picture. And I'm going to give you some more context, because think about the people who find it difficult to understand the situation. Maybe they even lack confidence, speaking on a subject that they don't fully grasp or feel like they're an expert on. Maybe sometimes, no matter what you say, you know that's going to offend people. And maybe you don't want to offend people. After all, topics like politics can get quite uncomfortable because it is a sensitive subject. And not everyone has the confidence to be able to speak on such matters. I mean, maybe you are outspoken, maybe you are courageous, but there are so many people who are not. People who are a little bit shy, or people who are maybe a little bit insecure. Maybe there are also people who find it difficult with self-expression. They don't really know how to properly express themselves so that the message comes across in an accurate way. So, you see, ladies, there are so many real reasons to why people don't always speak their minds. And it's not because they're cowards or because they're agreeing with the problem. I don't think it's compassionate to try and push people to do what they're not comfortable with doing. And ladies, you should never give in to the pressure that people may put on you because of their assumptions. Remember the work that we do with setting boundaries? We do it because we want to operate from a place where we are consistently staying true to ourselves, instead of being used as a prop for someone else. And there will always be people who will throw manipulation tactics at you. They're going to be calling you selfish, they're going to be victimizing the situation, they're going to do blame games. But a boundary is a boundary. And it is important to stay true to yourself and true to what feels right for you. Nobody has the right to take decisions for you. So if you want to comment on politics publicly or in person, that's absolutely okay. But it's also okay if that doesn't feel right for you. Let me tell you one thing, ladies. I am not perfect. And I still have a lot of things to work on with myself and also with my mindset. But I feel like I have come a long way compared to how I was before. Because before, I would have very little patience and I would have very little understanding for people. I would be immediately jumping to conclusions, to judgments, and I would be pointing fingers, left, right, and center. And I know that if I would have been back in time, a situation like today, I would have been so upset with absolutely everyone who doesn't think like me or do like me. And let's say I would have been, voicing my opinions on whatever matter. I would have been so angry with everyone who didn't do the same. I would call them hypocrites, I would call them cowards, I would accusing them of being in favor of the problem. And I would not have been able to see the situation objectively. Do you know what an objective mind is? Whatever you do is not necessarily the right choice for everyone. And we need to respect that, even if that feels triggering because we are passionate or we feel emotional. But it is very important if you want to be grounded. You cannot let your emotions dictate for other people. And this is, of course, easier said than done for many. But I think that if one wants to develop an elegant mindset, I believe we need to lead with compassion. I believe we need to always look at both sides and try to be understanding for one another. We need to be patient with people who are different. And we need to be patient with people who truly think different to us. One thing that politics does to people is to divide them. And I don't see anything positive with this at all. I don't think this is what we need in this world. We are already divided. We don't need to be even more divided. We need to have a world where we can coexist happily, even if we think differently. And I want to just be clear. I am not referring to some social matters that, let's say, are illegal or discriminatory, as there are, of course, some opinions that are simply simply unacceptable. You know, racism, in support of child abuse, etc. I am now referring to politics only. So for this reason, if you are faced with a person, let's say on your social media feed, or someone in person who says things that you don't agree on whatsoever, there is no need to unfollow that person or start arguing with that person. And there's no need to, put a cross on that person as if that person is awful just because you have different political thoughts. Now, ladies, practice not to get triggered. Practice acceptance. Practice objective thinking. There is always a reason to why someone thinks the way they think. And sometimes it's not even the fault of the person. It can sometimes be a fault of the circumstances. Now, ladies, feel free to agree or disagree with me in the comments below, but please, keep it classy if you decide to disagree. I am sharing with you my thoughts and I'm sharing with you my feelings on the subject. And of course, not everybody's gonna think like I do. And it's okay. I still root for you and I still believe that we can have other things in common than this opinion. Now, in my next video, 10 things elegant ladies never say, you'll find out what are some other taboo subjects that you should stay away from talking to people about. Now, I will see you in that video.